Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today, my guest is October Hallum. Before I bring her on, a couple of announcements. Our new free episodes, they're always available on Rokfin, Odysee, and all podcast platforms. Our website, Forbidden Knowledge News, is also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. This is where we feature other podcasts from our wonderful community. Be sure to follow us on both our Facebook pages, Instagram, and Twitter. All those links are in the description. Today, I want to welcome back to the show October Hallum. She is host of The Ancient Gift. She is a historian and a gifted intuitive. October, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Chris?
I am wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you.
Today, we're looking forward to this. October is going to be giving her presentation from Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon. We had some major technical issues during the conference, so she's going to give it here free for everyone. It was an amazing presentation, and we're going to be taking questions after. So anything you have, go ahead and leave those in the chat at any time, and we're going to get those at the end of the presentation. But before I turn it over to October, as I mentioned before, this summer, October and I are going to be filming a documentary. We're going to be taking a trip across country. We're going to be speaking with members of our wonderful conspiratorial community. We're going to be talking to authors, researchers, contactees, our friends, your friends, everyone that you've seen on Forbidden Knowledge News and some new ones. It's going to be amazing. Hell, we may even get abducted ourselves. So we're asking for your help and support if you're able. This is going to be a big project. We are fully self-funded. Cross-country trip is no small thing to shake a stick at. So we are going to be taking donations for travel, equipment, etc. And anything that you can spare is greatly appreciated. We appreciate anything you have to offer. If you would like to make a donation to help fund our amazing documentary project, those links are right there in the description for you. So we look forward to making this and getting this started. This is going to be an amazing, fun project that it's going to be a lifetime of work in the making. So I hope you guys enjoy what we have coming up for you. Okay, so without further hesitation, let us get to October's presentation, which is titled Connecting to the Divine, Connecting to Your Soul. So what I'm going to do, October, is I'm going to turn off my camera, I'm going to turn off my microphone, and if you have any troubles with your screen share or anything, just let me know. So without
Okay.
further ado, ladies and gentlemen, October Hallum.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you could join me today on this journey. So I'm going to actually screen share and do a visual part of the presentation. So you're not going to see me, but you're going to hear me, and we're going to go through some slides together. So let me first get my presentation up for everybody to see. So the title of my presentation is called Connecting to the Divine, Connecting to Your Soul. And I'm going to first start out and just kind of do a precursor introduction into the presentation and the title of the presentation, and then the description that was given for the conference last weekend was, if you've ever wondered about how you fit into the universe, or if you felt like something was missing or searched for answers to questions that reoccur in your life, you are not alone. So with that in mind, I am going to just, there we go. So hopefully you'll still be able to see me and hear me. So first slide we have, which I found out later is actually Chris's backdrop to one of his icons to his website, which I thought was coincidental and kind of funny, but that we picked the same image. But connecting to the divine and connecting to the self. Who are we and why are we here? These two fundamental questions have been asked since recorded history. Brilliant philosophers from the East and the West explored the answers to these questions throughout their lifetime, recording their insights and thoughts. But have they answered all these questions accurately? Have we solved the mysteries of life, consciousness, and what it means to be you? Yes and no. We know we are all unique as an individual. Our DNA proves this. But does that But that does not mean that we are not part of something bigger. We are part of the collective. What is a collective? Well, hold on, we're going to get there. But first, let's explore the individual, which is you. When we look at the ancient Greek philosophers like Socrates, who said, know thyself, and Descartes, the famous French philosopher of the 17th century, who wrote, I think, therefore I am, we can see that they started the journey of self by exploring their existential insight. Where did their intentions for those questions take us? Meaning, why do we not explore these questions today, like the great minds of the past who lived to ponder this mysterious mysteries of life? Are our lives narrated by outside influences? Let's face it, most of us are too busy trying to keep up with the pace of life, taking care of our families, careers, bills, homes, outside obligations, etc. We, the individual, get lost in the shuffle. How can we impact the meaning of life, this philosophical conundrum, when we do not understand the fundamentals of what it means to be me, the individual? Are the world of Socrates and Descartes that reflected their perception of life really all there is to reality? Perhaps Socrates and Descartes pointed us in the right direction of seeking answers for ourselves. After all, if I know who I am and therefore my reality is what I make up, well then, now we might be talking. I like referring to philosophy for insight into the mysteries of the universe because it is the first discipline in the sciences that led to the exploration of all other sciences, but more so for the ancients like Socrates, Confucius, Buddha, and so many more. They explored their innermost self to reflect on the meaning of their life and how they contributed to the whole, or as I call it, the collective. This is an extremely specific and important point I want to state. To understand yourself, you, the individual, you must examine you in truth without lies, filters, or excuses. This can be a challenging task to look within and ask yourself, what am I missing? And how did I get here? And the hardest, who am I? But in truth lies the answer. So this brings me to the next question. If you feel disconnected, why do you feel like this? Believe me, you are not alone in these thoughts or questions, and I cannot give you all the answers, but we can explore what may be missing, how we fit into the big picture, aka the collective, to start the journey. Our place in the universe, ever so finite, is paralleled by its importance in the collective. What is the collective? I know we're all eager to explore this vast possibility, but hold on, we are getting there. First, we need to answer the question of the individual, the meaning of happiness, and how we find some pieces that we have been missing. Of course, our individual definitions of what it is missing may be different for each of us, but there are commonalities that reflect in each of our journeys. No religion, no culture, history, or person can answer what is missing for you, the individual. Although we often seek answers in other places, it is within ourselves and the connection to the collective, as I think of it, the divine, that the answer lays. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, makes a very astute and wise assessment of the purpose of life. And I'm quoting him now, quote, I believe that the purpose of life is to be happy. From the moment of birth, every human being wants happiness and does not want suffering. Neither social conditioning nor education nor ideology affect this. From the very core of our being, we simply desire contentment. I don't know whether the universe with its countless galaxies, stars, and planets has a deeper meaning or not, but at the very least, it is clear that we humans who live on this earth face the task of making a happy life for ourselves. Therefore, it is important to discover what will bring about the greatest degree of happiness. How to achieve happiness. Again, I'm quoting the Dalai Lama, so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I wish I wrote this, but however, I'm not this enlightened or talented, so I'm going to keep reading from His Holiness's words. For a start, it is possible to divide every kind of happiness and suffering into two main categories, mental and physical. Of the two, it is the mind that exerts the greatest influence on most of us. Unless we are either gravely ill or deprived of basic necessities, our physical condition plays a secondary role in life. If the body is content, we virtually ignore it. The mind, however, registers every scent, every event, no matter how small. Hence, we should devote our most serious efforts to bringing about mental peace. This is where it gets interesting for me. He continues to write, from my own limited experience, I have found that the greatest degree of inner tranquility comes from the development of love and compassion. The more we care for happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being becomes. Cultivating a close, warm-hearted feeling for others automatically puts the mind at ease. This helps remove whatever fears or insecurities we may have and gives us the strength to cope with any obstacles we encounter. It is the ultimate source of success in life. As long as we live in a world, we are bound to encounter problems. If, at such times, we lose hope and become discouraged, we diminish our ability to face difficulties. If, on the other hand, we remember that it is not just ourselves, but everyone who has undergone suffering, this more realistic perspective will increase our determination and capacity to overcome troubles. Indeed, with this attitude, each new obstacle can be seen as yet another valuable opportunity to improve our mind. Thus, we can strive gradually to become more compassionate. That is, we can develop both genuine sympathy for others, suffering, and the will to help remove their pain. As a result, our own serenity and inner strength will increase. Our need for love. Ultimately, the reason why love and compassion bring the greatest happiness is simply that our nature cherishes them above all else. The need for love lies at the very foundation of human existence. It results from the profound interdependence we all share with one another. Now I'm going to say this again. It results from the profound interdependence we all share with one another. However capable and skillful an individual may be, left alone, he or she will not survive. However vigorous and independent one may feel during the most prosperous periods of life, when one is sick or very young or very old, one must depend on support of others. Compassion and the world. In conclusion, I would like to briefly expand my thoughts beyond the topic of this short piece and make a wider point. Individual happiness can contribute in a profound and effective way to overall improvement of our entire human community. And this is where, folks, this is where I call this the collective. An entire community built of humans, a human community, our consciousness, our soul, our connection to the universe is our connection to each other and our connection to within ourselves. His Holiness goes on, because we all share identical need for love, it is possible to feel that anybody we meet in whatever circumstances is a brother or sister. No matter how new the face or how different the dress and behavior, there is no significant division between us and other people. It is foolish to dwell on external differences because our basic natures are the same. Ultimately, humanity is one, and this small planet is our only home. If we are to protect this home of ours, each of us needs to experience a vivid sense of universal altruism. It is only this feeling that can remove the self-centered motives that cause people to deceive and misuse of one another. If you have a sincere and open heart, you naturally feel self-worth and confidence, and there is no need to be fearful of others. I believe that at every level of society, familial, tribal, national, and international, the key to a happier and more successful world is a growth of compassion. We do not need to become religious, nor do we need to believe in ideology. All that is necessary for each of us is to develop our good human qualities. I try to treat whoever I meet as an old friend. This gives me a genuine feeling of happiness. It is the practice of compassion. And that concludes His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's statement to humanity. In essence, His Holiness is saying that in order to achieve true happiness, that love, comfort comes from within the self. And we must show love and compassion to everyone as they, you and I, we are all part of the collective. This is your soul's purpose. Your journey in this iteration, your divine gift is happiness. This may sound so simple, it cannot possibly be true. But if we look to science for a moment, then the theory of Occam's razor principle of simply explain, the simplest answer is usually the right one. We can see that it takes a short excursion of self-examination to understand that happiness, fulfillment, and wholeness isn't a mystery of life. It is a divine right. So if happiness is my divine right, my gift from the universe, God, intelligent design, Allah, whatever you identify with as your truth, your higher power. Why do I feel so alone? And what is my part of this collective? To answer the first question, why do I feel so alone? Again, answers to this are going to vary. But in my research in life, I have come to realize that the answer will always come from within self, from within you. No outside source can fill that void, not money, not fame, no new job, move, new relationship, because the void within you is a part of you that only you can provide for. This is where I think our connection to the collective, the divine, and from this point forward, I will refer to it as the divine. This is where I think that connection comes in and gets a little scrambled, and why we search for outside sources to fulfill us, to make us feel whole, to join these groups and different belief systems to give us a sense of higher purpose. But if we realize that this higher purpose comes from the love that resides in from us, because it's part of our natural human existence, our natural character, our innate DNA design, then we would understand that there's something that we already possess. We just have to learn how to connect to it. Now that's the key, the connection. And I know a lot of you in life, like I have gone around and around and around and done the same thing over and over and over again, and have always tried to get and obtain a different result. But Einstein's theory of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, to paraphrase, and expecting a different result. So in order for us to achieve a different result, we have to change our game plan. So I'm going to continue with my presentation. So the divine collective explain. And I'm going to kind of reiterate what I just said, so bear with me. You don't have to believe in religion, supernatural, or the cosmos to believe that you are part of something larger, something that you feel that you should know, that you should have, but it still eludes you, the divine. Although we are all born as individuals, we're all part of this collective divine. The feeling of disconnection that people search to connect with in various ways, that feeling is that lost connection to your consciousness, or as some people refer to as your soul. Since science has no clear explanation for consciousness and the existence of God cannot be proven, but that does not mean that they don't both exist. There has to be something to explain why we feel so lost as times, why we seek guidance from other people in power, religion, spiritual belief systems, because in reality, we are seeking that connection to our divine right, our soul, which ultimately leads us right back to the collective, to the divine. We are divine. It doesn't matter if you believe we are created by either stardust or intelligent design, some people may call God. Either way, our existence is the core of our innate nature, is to investigate our existence. After thousands of years of exploring the unknown, we do not have definitive answers. The only answer we can provide is the one to ourselves. When we do this and we find the peace that connects us to who we are, the individual, then we join the collective. We join with our divinity, our divine within us. We answer the call of the divine and we recognize our purpose. Does this sound a little crazy to you? Can the answer I have been seeking, the connection I have been craving, the love I have been hoping for truly exist within me? Yes, most definitely. And always has. So how do I connect with it? And where do I go from there when I do? Again, this answer will vary for each of us, but the outcome will always be the same. Peace. The divine is the heartbeat of our universe. It is what connects us all to the pulse of life, and you are directly part of that divine. This next part you may not like to hear, but it is the truth, and it is the truth that has guided me, many others, to find their peace and their place in the cosmos and acceptance. So when I say this next part, this is when I first heard this, this was really, really hard for me to accept because it meant that I had to take ownership for my own actions throughout my life. I had to face my mistakes, which now I've come to learn. Yes, I made lots of mistakes as a mother, as a woman, as a wife, as a sister, as a, daughter, in every walk and every aspect of my life. And it's very hard sometimes to look in the mirror and know that you've hurt other people and you did it with intention, or, without even hurting people without intention, to do so, but you still hurt them. And sometimes we're really hard on ourselves, and that can drive our vibrations, our energy even lower. And it can disconnect us even further from our true purpose, which ultimately is love. And that love has to start within yourself. So when I started down this journey several years ago, and I'm going to say the last 2 years has been the culmination of many life's lessons and coming to peace with a lot of things in my past. This was a very hard part and an exercise for me to do, but I'm going to take you through this, and I hope that you listen with an open mind, and you don't have to take what I say, for the gospel, so to speak, but just be open to listening to what I'm about to say, because I think if we could all start this kind of self-reflection and start sharing in this kind of a truth, then the world would be a much better, happier, and peaceful place. So you are exactly where you choose to be in your life. And until you make the choice to change, you will remain in the state where you exist. What? That's crazy. I didn't ask for my car to break down, short rent money, being cheated on by my spouse, being fired from my job, right? I didn't choose those things. Let me read this again. You are exactly where you choose to be in your life. And until you make the choice to change, you will remain in the state where you exist. I think, therefore I am. In truth, it is the fundamental answer to know thyself. If something does not serve you, let it go. I know this is a hard concept to really accept, and I resisted it for years. Sure, I have been wronged in my past, and yes, I have wronged others, and many, in fact. I have sought revenge and retribution, but do you know where it got me? A loss of friends, health problems, relationship damage, and destroyed. And worst of all, I grew even more disconnected from myself. And I lived in a state of fear, anxiety, depression, and guilt. Now, I'm going to say something that just may blow your mind. It may shift your paradigm, if only for the moment you hear it. I chose the loss, the pain, the suffering, the anger, the animosity, the hate, and the guilt. All those emotions were a direct result of me not letting go of what does not serve me and living in a reality created by fear. Fear. Fear is the biggest killer of dreams. It drives people to do unimaginable things, and yet it is 100% self-manufactured. Again, fear is the biggest killer of dreams. It drives people to do unimaginable things, and yet it is 100% self-manufactured. All we have to fear is self. Franklin D. Roosevelt. No true words have ever been spoken. Fear is what is holding you back from realizing your highest potential. If you look at Descartes' wisdom, I think, therefore I am, from the interpretation of fear, well, it is self-explanatory. Can you imagine a life without fear? What would your life look like if you let fear go 100%? You not worrying about how people think about you or what they may or may not do, not worrying about money, status, material things, career path, job security, and most of all, not resisting your inclination to let go of all past injustices done to you. There is a fear in that because we perceive this act as letting go of control, loss of control, and that is a big one. So let's review for a moment. What am I missing? How do I connect with myself, divine self? How can I let go what does not serve me? Does my actions or action really affect the whole / the collective / the divine? And lastly, how do I start the journey of self-discovery, letting go of what does not serve me and choosing a better life for myself? A life fulfilled with joy, security, love, kindness, and connection. As I stated earlier, these answers will differ in each of us, but for a few minutes, I want to talk about my personal journey, a journey of self-realization and recognition, and by no means it is over. I have to work every day to let go of things that have hurt me, forgiveness of others and myself, and ultimately accept that the world I live in, my personal life, is the one that I have created for myself. If I don't like something or something is not working, it is up to me to make the difficult choices or different choices to change my reality. To put it mildly, I had an abusive childhood. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. And before I really get into this, I have a nonprofit I started called Lenny's Love. It's to help suicide awareness, to raise suicide awareness, and for us to have a better conversation about mental health and suicide in this country and around the world, specifically relating to my brother. So once I tell you a little bit about my story, you'll understand why I'm telling you this now, because it'll make sense. But this is a conversation that I'm very open about. I've done a lot of talks, lectures, presentations on suicide awareness, and I am very raw and very genuine and authentic when I present, because I feel if I can't share my experiences, as painful as they have been in my past life, and so I still suffer today from missing my brother every day. But if I can't share these things and what I've done in my life, and my depression, anxiety, then how do I expect others to reach out for help, right? So we're all on this journey together. So I'm going to share a little bit about my personal life, and I hope that if it does connect with some of you and you do identify with some of these things that have happened to me and some of the different ways my life is twisted and turned, I want you to know that you're not alone. And many of us out there have had a rocky start to this life. And there's always someone out there for you. And my information is in the presentation, and you're always welcome to reach out to me. It's part of something that I do. I help people who need help. I can refer you to the mental health professionals in your area. So I just want to make sure that if anybody is suffering through any kind of mental health crisis or suicide iterations, that I am here 24/7. So please don't stop of reaching out if you feel the need to. So now I'm going to start. To put it mildly, I had an abusive and difficult childhood. I have lost 2 siblings to suicide from childhood PTSD and combat PTSD. I understand their pain and choice to exit this reality, because sometimes the pain is so great it takes over your entire existence and you become blind to the love and support that surrounds you. As a young mother who raised 5 children, I made many mistakes along the way, and in hindsight, I have realized the pain I have caused my children. Even though I did my best as a mother and loved my children more than my own life, I still did things that hurt them. And as a parent, that guilt can overtake you. My relationship with men have not been successful because I've always picked partners that I felt at the time I deserved. This was choice. This was my perception of I think, therefore I am. These relationship choices were based and accepted by the person who had little self-worth and virtually no self-love or self-esteem. How did that change? What happened to shift my paradigm and help me with the struggles and strife throughout my life? If I am honest, years of therapy and medication didn't do much for me except for when I started cognitive therapy in my late 40s. This was the beginning of my real shift. One of the most beautiful and profound things I've ever heard in my life was from my cognitive therapist during a session. And she said, October, sometimes our perceived vulnerabilities are our greatest strengths. Huh? I'm going to read that again. I still struggle with this, right? Because I come from a generation that we didn't cry and open. We didn't talk about, painful parts of our memories or childhoods or traumas, because that was perceived as weak or whiny or not necessary, just tough, suck it up. Somebody out there in the world's got it worse than you do. That's the kind of generation I grew up in. So I'm going to say this again, October, sometimes our perceived vulnerabilities are our greatest strengths. Think about that. So if I'm trying to control all these parts of my life, which by the way is an illusion. We don't have any control about anything except how we react to things. And we have absolutely no control of what's going on around us, right? You can't control if it's going to rain or if somebody's going to cheat on you or whatever, whatever that situation is going to be, right? You can't control that. You can only control your said reaction to that circumstance. So, but the pain that comes with somebody doing you wrong, somebody cheating on you, somebody, screwing you out of money, somebody saying hurtful things about you, gossiping about you, purposely, gaslighting you, purposely saying and doing things that hurt you. The showing the pain is what I'm talking about, that vulnerability. I had to learn that recognizing and acknowledging the pain was the only way to get through it, because not talking about it, stuffing it down, glossing over it wasn't doing it. It was like building layer upon layer upon layer of sadness and anger and fear on my soul, to the point where I was basically bedridden. I wasn't doing a lot. I was drinking for a little while there for a lot. I was on Xanax. And I wasn't me anymore. I was existing, but I wasn't living. So I started to realize that the pain I held onto throughout my childhood, young adult life, and as a mother, I held that all the way into my 40s. And up until that moment, those were the building blocks of my life. That was the foundation of what I knew existence was: pain and suffering and holding on to all of it to justify me. I'm sad. I'm the victim. I'm that, my mom did this and my dad didn't do that. And that, so-and-so did this to me. And that victim mentality, I lived it for decades. And I was never strong enough to look in the mirror and say, I'm exactly where I'm at right now because I choose to be here. It's not my mother's fault that I did this. It's not my dad's fault that I did that. It is my responsibility to own those things that I've done, good, bad, or ugly, right? You have to own them. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I started to recognize the reality I live in. And it was a reality of choice. And it was a reality of choice in time, as our linear thinking of humans that we are. We think of time as linear when it's not, but we're going to stay for this moment in this presentation. We're going to stay as time is a linear thing. So my self-love was non-existent. My depression was overwhelming. And I was suffocating, plenty of air out there to breathe, but yet I was suffocating every day. I could not understand why. Why do I feel like this? Why do I feel overwhelmed with the fact that I woke up today? I used to pray not to wake up. I was going through the motions, therapy, exercise, better choices, but yet there was still something missing. There was a disconnection. And what I'm going to tell you next is heartbreaking, but I think it's important that we all take this journey together. So I'm going to say it anyway. What changed my life and set my path on a course so unthinkable to me at the time? It was my brother's suicide in March of 2018. His death was my wake-up call, my call to action, the self-realization I needed to climb my way out of my own way. In other words, I have to remove myself from my path so I could see it, because I was blocking my own way. It opened my eyes to what pain can do and of where not letting go can do and where it leads us. What it means to be so overwhelmed by sadness and unacceptance of yourself that it leads to such a disconnection with you, your consciousness, your soul, the collective, the divine, where that leads. After losing my brother, I understand that vacuum abyss of pain. I understand that rabbit hole you dig yourself in, where no light shines through. I give this analogy sometimes when I do talks about suicide awareness, that being in that place, it's like you're under a house and there are floorboards above you, and you can see light and you can hear people walking around, and you can hear footsteps, and you can hear, conversation. You can't really make out the words, but you can hear it. And you're underneath the house, and you have the ground underneath you, and you're sitting there in this like fetal position, and you're rocking back and forth, and you're just in this really dark place with a little bit of light peeking in and muffled sounds of life around you. And all you have to do is reach out and knock. You just have to knock on those floorboards to let them know upstairs that you're down here and you need help. But sometimes that knock, the pain that you're in and the darkness that you feel is so overwhelming that you don't even have the cognitive ability to reach out and knock. I was raised in a generation where you did not show pain and suffering, sadness. You shoved it down and took your licks and never said a word about it. My brother was as well. My brother served in the Army as a combat helicopter pilot for 29 and a half years. And so, yes, his death did come as a shock for me because I thought he was invincible. My eldest sister and brother paid the ultimate price for that rigid mindset. But during the shock and grief of the loss of my brother in 2018 and my sister in 2013, I started to understand me and my connection to the divine, because I started to communicate to my soul and understand that the pain that I had, the pain that I felt, is a universal experience. It affects everyone because everyone affects the divine. Why have I shared intimate details about my life in this presentation? Well, I kind of already went over that, but let's reiterate and acknowledge it just one more time. It is not to elicit sympathy. It is to illustrate that through sharing the vulnerability of my pain and grief from the losses in my life, the gift of vulnerability, the sincere realization of releasing control and letting go of what does not serve me, it has given me a gift. It's been a gift. The acceptance of self. My greatest strength has led me to where I am today, fulfilled, at peace, and in love. During my quest of self-acceptance and searching for the seemingly elusive love, I have found that the connection I have to myself and others around me grows daily. I no longer struggle with boundaries. If I feel somebody does not raise my vibration, in other words, lives in a negativity, then they are not allowed in my life. This has severed many relationships, but I truly believe I think, therefore I am. Well, then I have to honor my reality. Negative people and hardships will always be a part of life. It is important what they do. It is not important what they do or what they say, because the truth is we cannot change it. We can only control our responses or reactions to it. This brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. You have absolute control over only one thing in life. I'm going to say this once more time. You have absolute control over only one thing in life. Your chosen responses to obstacles and challenges. In other words, how you choose to respond or react to a negative or difficult situation or person or tragedy is the only thing you can control in that situation, because ultimately your reaction is going to be the foundation of what's going to follow. You choose your reality, period. End of sentence, end of story. You are exactly where you want to be. And I know it's a mind-blowing concept, and a lot of you might be out there going, oh, this is so full of whatever, and I just can't even listen to this. And I never heard such poppycock, right? But it's the truth. It is the absolute truth. If you choose to be happy, and happiness is a fleeting term that we relate in our language as contentment, peace, a string of fortunate events, love, all these things. Happiness is, it's different for each of us. There are people in different parts of the world who don't have enough food to eat. I'm sure if they had food every single night, and a roof over the head that doesn't leak water and clean water to drink, and their children were fed, that would bring them much contentment and happiness, right? Because those are real problems. Those are real challenges that are facing. And I'm not saying that all of us in America and other parts of the world that have a much better reality than that. I'm not saying that our challenges and difficulties aren't sad and challenging, right, at times, but we have the choice to choose however we want to handle them. Are we going to handle them with dignity and honesty and respect? Are we going to run away from them, not acknowledge them, be negative? Because that's going to be your foundation of how you're going to move through that part of your life. Your soul is waiting to connect. And the only thing missing from you, from your life, is the acceptance that you are part of something so much bigger than our language can describe. Yet it yearns for you to feel it. That is why you feel a void. No artificial filler will ever complete you. You are enough. Let me say that again. You are enough. You are beautiful, and you deserve the happiness that is your divine right. It is a part of who and what you are in the cosmos. It is your innate nature. Everyone's journey is different, but the one thing that is the same for all of us is this message: let go of what does not serve you. Once you free yourself from the past and recognize that your gift of the present is an amazing thing to behold, and understand that your future is pliable, dependent on the choices you make each and every single day, then you will be on your journey, your quest of a connection to self and to the divine within you. In closing, I would like to read a quote by an unknown author that was so incredibly insightful. I committed it to memory the instant I read it. Let love not be the tide that binds us. Instead, let it be the seas that flow between the shores of our souls. So in conclusion, that is the last bit of my presentation. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And hopefully Chris is coming on. Yep. And if anybody has any questions, my email is theancientgift222@gmail.com. If you need any help with the mental health referrals, I'm happy to help in your area. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Wonderful. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, October. And I want to remind everybody, if you guys have questions, go ahead and leave those in the chat right now. We're going to go ahead and get to as many as we possibly can. I know that I saw a couple in there before, so let's get to some of those. We got Brian, what's up, brother? Brian Murphy asks, would you say we are so interconnected because we are just multiple different expressions of source?
Well, yes and no, because we all come from the same mix, right? We all come from the same pot, so to speak, to put in terms that I can understand. However, we're given free choice and free will. So in that it's kind of like free choice and free will to me spiritually is like the equivalent of your DNA. Your DNA is singularly to you. You possess this DNA, you possess that singular quality about your free will, the choices that you make. So yes and no. Yes, we are all connected because we come from the same place, but our choices are what makes us different. Does that answer the question?
I think so. That was a good answer there. Thank you, Brian. Let's see what else we got. And I just want to remind everybody, go ahead and leave those questions now. Linda asks, I'm so freaking confused. How do we even get there? What are we, what do we have to do? What is the first step that I must do to get there?
To get to the connection to yourself, to soul. Okay. Um, you have to take an inventory and a life inventory. And I will tell you, when I did this personally, I have 5 children that are grown. And like I said, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I mean, I'm not shy away from that. And I still struggle with some of my children, our relationships because of those choices and decisions I've made. But I'm at peace with it, and I'm at peace with them. So the first thing I did was I took a real inventory of all the things that I perceived that were mistakes and how I hurt other people. And the first thing I did was acknowledge them to myself. And then I contacted the people that I felt that I needed to make peace, which were my children and a couple of friends and a couple of family members. And I had real conversations, and I agreed with about 80% of the things that they said. There about 20% I think were inflated by past pain and things that they were holding on to, which is out of my control. But for the most part, they had a lot of valid points, and I listened to them. And I had to let go of the friends that I lost along the way. That, not, I didn't hurt them or anything, it's just that sometimes you have to let go of things and people that don't elevate you, that don't help you heighten your vibration, that keep you down. So the first thing is a genuine inventory of self. The second is facing that and making that apologies if you can. And if you can't to them, then do it to yourself, and releasing the guilt. Let go what doesn't serve you. Guilt doesn't do any good for anybody, because once you've felt the guilt and you've acknowledged the mistake and you felt the guilt, then you have made good on whatever that deed is. And you need to move on, because if you hold on to that, that's what's going to keep you down into that reality.
Right on. Thank you for the question, Linda. All right, great answer, October. And Brian says, yes, great answer for his question as well. So thank you for that. I have a question. In my journey, something that I didn't even realize was a factor that was keeping me from my reaching a portion of my full potential was that I had a couple of attachments, of spiritual attachments that I didn't even know about. And from what I've heard from a lot of people, that most people will not know that they have these attachments. It takes external remedies and people and sometimes intuition to find out that there is indeed something attached. How important would you think that is to actually reaching some of these goals of connecting to your divine and to your source?
Well, I mean, like I said in the presentation, everybody is going to have a different journey, and there are going to be outside forces for each of us that we have to contend with. You specifically, I have knowledge of, because I helped you with them. But there is a lot in this world, and I say world, I mean universe, that we don't understand. We take for granted. Oh, that person's hearing voices, they must be schizophrenic. Or, oh, that person says that she talks to dead people, so she must be crazy. Or, oh, blah blah blah, and on and on. If you have gone through that awareness step of taking a self inventory, addressing this mistakes that I've done some ugly stuff in my life. I'm not going to lie. I am no saint for sure, but facing it was harder. Not facing it was harder. Understanding after I faced it, the pain that I caused that came with that was harder for me to face, because I knew I hurt people I loved, right? If you do all these steps, and I'm not saying that this is 100% foolproof, for $9.99, buy this kit and I can solve your problems. What I'm saying is, you go through all these steps and you are an honest inventory of self, and you go through and you do the things, and you release the guilt, and you work on this. This is a daily process. It does not happen overnight. It took me years to get to this place, and you still feel weighed down. You're not sleeping well. You've got health issues, just unexplained stuff, like that. And you've gone through all these steps. And I would say then that's time that you speak a spiritual advisor. That's would be, whether it's clergy, or whether it is, supernatural, paranormal, then that would be the time that I would look into something else. Because if you've done everything else, it's like the process of scientific method, right? The process of elimination. You're eliminating all the other factors that could be, aiding in your condition. Then that's when I would seek outside help.
There we go. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And even for myself, that even though I didn't realize I had attachments and I was be able to become somewhat successful with the attachments for God knows how long. I've had them forever. They still had something that I knew was deep down inside that was weighing me down in a way, and it's very interesting. It's all about you. You're exactly right. It's about your personal journey and what you have to go through to get there and make that realization. 100%. Now I want to remind everyone this will be your last chance. Go ahead and leave any questions for October, and we'll get to them right away. Also, big thing that part of your presentation was suicide awareness, and especially right now with everything happening in our world, people are realizing that systems that they've thought were the way things were are coming crashing down, that they've been lied to about education, history, politics, economics, everything. And it must be hard for a lot of people right now. Plus, being locked away in your homes for the past couple of years can't be good for you either. So I have personally noticed a lot of mental health decline in a lot of people across the world.
A lot of people don't know this, but suicide is the number 2 cause of death between the ages of 10 and 24 in our country.
And it's probably gotten worse since 2020 with everything happening. What would you say that the best thing that people can do, first of all, besides everything you said, is just unplug from these false systems as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't watch the news anymore. I don't even read the news feeds anymore because it's all negative. And honestly, it's not that I don't want to be consciously aware of what's going on around me, but there are a lot of other sources that are vetted and are authentic that you can check into for news sources. You don't need to be on a news source that has a political agenda. I'm not going to say the news agencies, but you know what I'm talking about. So, do your research, engage with yourself. If you can't leave your hometown because you can't afford to, because gas is $7 a gallon in some parts of the country, yes, it sucks. It truly does suck. I mean, it does limit to you, right? But you can take a walk. You can go to the park. You can walk through, if you live by water, go walk by the, shoreline. If it's cold and snowy, then try to just get outside and walk in your neighborhood, or go out into your backyard and just look at the snow and the moon, and just be as much as you can in nature, connect to that. Because sometimes if that's all we have, then that's what we have to use. And this isn't permanent, people. This, what we're going through right now in the world, this isn't going to be like this forever. It's going to change. And I do believe it will change for the best, for the better. It's just going to take some time. So as collectively, as we are, the collective, the divine, together, if we can get through this time and lift each other up with compassion and love and humility, as Dalai Lama, His Holiness, said, then I believe that, we have a really good chance of coming out this on the other side in a victorious, way.
100%. Yes, that's right on. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this presentation. Thank you, Linda, Brian, for the questions. If you have any other questions for October, go ahead and email her. Her email's theancientgift222@gmail. And also, she offers intuitive readings. So if you would like to get a reading from October, you can send her an email there as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And you will have a new episode of The Ancient Gift coming out in another week or two.
Yep. Our next episode is going to be on giants. I'm super excited. I have 3 renowned researchers in the field. And so I can't wait. That's going to be an excellent show. And after that, we were going to be having a show in April on hauntings, and we're going to have a show on monoliths around the world. Specifically, which ones I don't know yet. Kind of like figure that out. And there's a couple surprises in there too, so I'm excited.
Awesome, and you can find the Ancient Gift on all popular podcast platforms. You can find it on our feed on Rokfin, and you can also find it. I think that's it. But yeah, tune into the Ancient Gift. She's got some amazing stuff coming up on there. And also, if you guys want to help us out with our documentary, the links are in the description. If you have any questions or want a reading from October, that's also in the description. Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you, October. That was a fantastic presentation. And
Thank you.
We will